I've been struck at just how flimsy and arbitrary a lot of language is. And so I'm just starting a book for the first time. I haven't read this chapter before. And I thought we could explore, I guess, the basis of words, the basis of language. In the beginning, magico-religious behavior of the Paleanthropians. So let's look at that. In the beginning. So are we inside the beginning? Right? Why in the beginning? Why not when the beginning? In the beginning. But we're not in the beginning. We're here. We're in the present. But we're asked to think of being in the beginning, which we are not. Beginning. So in the being, in the beginning, in the be of the beginning. Magico, is that even a word? Magic, the, I guess, conjuring of reality. Religious. So what does religious mean? You know, because we have religious and then we have religious, as in repeat, repetition, react, right? So if we have religious, why is it religious? Is it the repetition of the religious, litigation, legal? So is it the repetition of the law? Like, is that the foundation? Then we have be again, behavior. So we have the be, behavior. Is behavior connected to have in any way? To be and to have? Of the Paleanthropians. Of the three Paleanthropians. So we have behavior, we litigious, litigation of the Palean. So we have a period of history that we've called Paleo. Not sure the origin of that word. Throw, Pians. So the Pians are the people of that period. So I think it's a little bit of a shaky title. Then we have one, orientatio, tools to make tools. The domestication of fire. Despite. So spite is apparently, to wish harm on someone. Despite, not to wish harm on someone. Its importance. So we have import. So what does import have to do with our sense of importance? Is it contents of import? Now, why does import signify significance? And if we look at that, like we're talking gibberish constantly, signa, sign, right? Why does importance become the sign of a sign, like significance? Now, it's very common in food products to label that something is imported, meaning it is a selling technology. We want to drink imported beer rather than local beer. At least that's been the attitude until recently, right? In my area, they're now craft local beers have become more important than import, right? So if the significance of importance is coming from the fact that more value is placed on something that is imported, then as the culture pivots away from emphasizing imports to improvising locally made and grown, now the word loses its basis, right? Because there was a time, for example, in the spice trades, where spices, simply because they were imported, were more valuable than gold, right? And what does import mean? It means to take into a port. So how much of our stuff is still arriving in ports? Well, shipping containers, they're still using those words, right? Shipping containers arrive mostly in ports, right? But we've shifted emphasis, right? In America, as I make this, made in America is somehow, something to be sought after, local, right? So coming in to the port is no longer the basis of assumption that that's where the significance lies, but it's still the word. Importance, the unts being imported, right? An important person, right, is borrowing value from the significance of something coming through a port, right? And so, we get these words. So deflate. So flate, inflate, deflate, spite, inspite, despite. We're even changing the meaning of the spite, despite. So apparently there's a spite, right? And then despite is supposed to move around the spite. It's. Despite its importance. See, here we're attributing the value to a thing, despite its importance. Now, that's a supposition. Why not attribute value to the person narrating the story, right? Because if I don't attribute any value or any importance to something that, frankly, is not being imported, does it have any value? Right? So perhaps a more correct way of saying it, of constructing the meaning of language, would be despite importance, meaning despite the fact that I place importance, referencing the analogy of something being imported. Despite I placing importance on an understanding of the religious phenomenon, we shall not here discuss the problem of homogenization. So in other words, the author is saying, despite the fact that I, the reader, place importance on this, he's not going to talk about it. But he's, in the language, ascribing the importance to the thing, when in fact the importance is subjective. Right? For many, many people, for example, this thing that's important to me, this exploration of words, has no importance. So I could say, despite the importance of this subject, many people will not be interested in it. But here I'm turning the value, right? I'm placing an independent value on an idea, regardless of whether anyone values it. So I could say, despite the fact that I place importance on this subject, other people will not place value on this subject, and other people will, right? That each person will assign importance. So, despite its import, value, for an understanding. For an understanding. Now, are we doing this for an understanding? Are we having this discussion for the understanding? Or are we having this discussion so that we understand? So that I can understand, so that you can understand, right? So it's not for an understanding. Again, it's placing it out there. It's for my understanding. Now, but then we come to this word, understanding. So for my standing under something. Now, is standing under something the best combination of meanings to understand understanding? So, if I stand under this book, can I understand it more? Can I grok it more than looking at it? Right? So where did that word understand come from? And why was it not stand to the side of? Right? Because if I understand you, I'm not standing under you. I'm standing to the left or the right of you. I'm standing in your proximity. Another proxy, we have to look at that. So understanding. Now, why is it referencing standing? Why not peripheral being? Despite I giving value, because despite me valuing learning about you, right? Why is learning being structured as standing under rather than above or left or right? Because we never actually stand under. But was there a time when this word was invented when someone was climbing up a ladder and we were standing under them? And why did that why did that behavior? Because I can't think of many behaviors. Like, I can't think of the last time I was standing under someone. So but there must have been a time when this word was invented where to grok, to see the same way as someone was to stand under them. Now on climbing ships, right? You have people up above and you stand under, but you don't see what the person sees in the crow's nest, right? They see a further horizon. So you would not see that unless you stood parallel, right? And then why the emphasis on standing? Like if you want to see the way someone is seeing and they're sitting down, why wouldn't you sit down beside them? If you want to feel what something feels like, why wouldn't you sit beside them on the same cushions that they're sitting on, right? So it's a very tenuous, like neither standing nor under has anything to do with perceiving. Of the religious, there again, we're exporting, we're externalizing the weight onto the religious, right? But it isn't the religious. It's my litigiousness. It's my religiousness. And my repetition, the reliving of that routine, of that protocol. It's mine. If it isn't mine, it doesn't exist. Like it's got to be someone's. It's not the religious. It's my religious or your religious. Phenomenon. The religious phenomenon. The phenomena of law. We, I guess just made up as much as anything else, shall not hear, discuss. So there's a cuss and there's a discuss. The probe, the problem, the lem of harmonization. So we have hominoids, civilization, harmonization. It is sufficient, not efficient, not proficient, sufficient. So again, we're describing, basically, we're just 2 sentences in, and what I'm learning is that all of these supposed qualities that there are being repeatedly ascribed through language onto things rather than to people. So we could say it's a dehumanizing protocol where we're describing things that we make up from us, and then we're giving those attributes onto things. It is sufficient. So we have suffice. Suffice. So suffice, let it suffice. Let it be enough. So it is enough, but really I enough give, meaning I give the label of enough to recall. I'm saying it's enough to recall. So we call, right? We call something and it comes. We recall, we do it again, we repeat, and it comes again to recall it. So we're saying it's enough to call it again. The vertical. So we have verdi, we have life up. To recall the upper, posture. So we're referring to post. So the way humans look most like a post, posture. All ready. So all ready means that it's there before, but it really means all is ready. Meaning all isn't ready, but something is vertical like a post, and it is ready that way. All of it is ready. Marks a transportation movement, sending up, moving up, of the condition. So again, we're ascribing the moving up of the condition. Condiments, condition, condition. Typical of the primates. Uprightness. So up is the right way. Uprightness can not. So cannot. So it's impossible for uprightness being maintained. Now, main refers to the bulk of something, the main house, the biggest portion. Except in a state. So a state is a country of wakefulness. And we have the sense of wake, a funeral wakefulness. We have the wake of a wave. So up is rightness, right? Sit up, look up, right? Up is rightness. Now that's also a supposition. It's not validated by reality. Yeah. If you're driving a car, looking up is not the right way to drive. If you're having a conversation, looking up is not the right way to connect. But we don't have downrightness or just effective rightness. We have uprightness, right? Because we are a vertical culture of hierarchy, arches, And at the top of the arch is a higher point, right? A hierarchy refers to an arch that has things that are higher and lower on the arch. But it is supposition to say that the high point of the arch is better than the low point of the arch. Because let's say that you have to choose between the high point of the arch and the low point of the arch. Okay, so you pick the keystone, the top of the arch, right? Obviously, because you're in the cult code that says that higher is better. Within a hierarchy, within the picture of an arc, we think that the higher point in the arc. So, okay, so you pick the keystone. So I remove all the other stones to the left and the right, all the things that are below the keystone, and what happens? The keystone falls to the bottom. Right? So maybe the sides of the arch, the lower archy, would be the most relevant things. That if you're going to pick something, pick the lower archy. If you've already picked that and you have another choice, then pick the one after that, right? So that your structure doesn't fall down. Start low. And the last thing you pick is the hierarchy. But it's not what we do. It's not how we think in our cult. So the purpose of this video was to answer for myself, could we speak a few sentences in the English language that had any meaning based on the origins of those words? And I think that what's clear to me from this is that any meaning that is there is given by the people that give the meaning. And if you take away the cult programming, if you take away the assumptions, the dogmas that are part of cult programming, the language is a very weak path to seeing clearly.